Hi, Stephanie Abrams here, dashing through the airport. I'm going on an adventure. I've got my backpack, I've got my laptop, I've got my traveling shoes on. Come along with me. Look over my shoulder at the beach and all the people in their bathing suits, those who are surfing and frolicking in the water. And in fact, there's a snorkeling center just to my left where you can pick up equipment of various kinds for water sports. What a great place this is. And I'm actually on the patio deck of the Radisson Hotel that's located just beside the beach in Malta. What a gorgeous location. We've just had a fabulous lunch, so I'm not in any condition to go swimming at the moment. But doesn't that look inviting? This has just been the loveliest afternoon, and in the shadow of so many historic sites and places to visit on the wonderful island of Malta. You can take a 2.5-hour boat trip over to Sicily from here, and you'll find that Malta is not only a beach resort destination, but also a fabulous destination for so much history going back thousands of years. In the world of curators, I'm going to put money on it that I'm probably with the loveliest curator who has the best sense of humor. And so I wish to introduce you to the curator of Fort St. Elmo in Malta, Luisano D'Amato. It's so nice to be with you. You have no idea how nice it is to be with you. I am so happy to be with you in this wonderful and historic fort. How long have you been the curator here?
For around 2 years now.
What did you do before?
I was a researcher.
So you knew a lot about Fort St. Elmo before you came, or you've learned even more since you're here?
I've knew before and much, much more afterwards. I mean, we're finding new finds like almost every day.
Where do you find new finds in an old fort?
Let's say that the walls speak to you and you have information written on them. So that's one of the major tasks. And then, for instance, if you just have a surname of a particular person on the wall, you can always check the archives and maybe you find where the person lived, how old he is, what he was doing, if he was doing something nasty or not in this place and stuff like that.
And what was Fort St. Elmo here in Malta?
Well, most of the time it was always used for military issues, let's say that. So it was always a fort. But during the let's say the 19th, 20th century, it was used for as a police academy. So after the British left the islands and it became part of the Maltese armed forces, then it shifted to the police force itself. After that, we restored it, and now there's a part of the fort is also a museum. Related to the military museum, and the rest, well, most people like to just come over and enjoy the fort and its history, because it's a very long history.
Are you Maltese?
Yes.
So you were born here and grew up here?
Yes.
Were you educated elsewhere or always in Malta?
No, always in Malta, but I did a lot of research abroad as well, like in the UK and stuff.
I've met other people today who have told me that they went to the UK to do research, and many times they found things, other times it was very difficult because names were not as complete as they needed them to be. So are you finding the same thing?
Yes, it's true. Some names, it's not, you don't have a name, you just have a number, so it's a code. So you either decipher the code or you don't. So that's another mystery in its own.
Well, we're going to explore more of the mysteries of St. Elmo, the fort here in Malta. Stay with me. Stephanie Abrams here, and you can listen to the archived audio of the radio broadcast and also download the podcast at travelers411.com, so you can get all the information to all the mysteries at Fort St. Elmo. I am in a town called Rabat Gozo, the island of Gozo, part of the Malta archipelago. and we are visiting this amazing island today. The architecture is unbelievable. The history is amazing. And the first place we're stopping to chat is with Rickardu Zammit. And he has a restaurant just across the little lane from where we're standing now called Rickardu. What do you do here in this place across from your restaurant, Rickardu?
In this special room, first of all, I restored this nice room myself when I was younger. Now I'm using it to do cheese every day, the traditional cheese making every day. I keep about 200 sheep and goats in a small farm, not about 3 kilometers from here. So we bring the milk every day in this special room, and here we do cheese every day.
What kind of cheese do you make?
We do this traditional cheese, we call it jbeina from sheep and goats.
So I'm going to be very interested to taste it to see how it compares to, because I love goat cheese. And it's become very fashionable in the most upscale restaurants to serve a salad of red beets and goat's cheese. And it's lovely. It's a nice combination.
We prepare this traditional plate with, we call it jbeina, from sheep and goats. We call it jbeina. Then, of course, we use cheese, tomatoes, capers, olives, everything from the earth. Everything.
But I see.
I used to call it farmer's lunch long time ago when I started doing this. First of all, I was grown up in this environment, so it's like nothing new, you know.
Are you Maltese by birth?
I am Maltese, but I am more Gozitan. We are Gozitans. It's
So
part of Malta, but we are Gozitans.
I see. So it's
I'm very proud to be Gozitans.
you know, it's like the people in Sicily don't really think of themselves as Italian; they think of themselves as a Sicilian.
Yes, it's the same. Yes.
So I see here chili peppers.
This chili here, I prepared some milk just before you arrived, and I turned it already into cheese. Now, maybe you know, to turn milk into cheese, if you have to go for the very traditional method, is to use the stomach of the baby lamb, of the lamb, or the kid from the goat. This you put the stomach in the way that comes out from the cheese to create these enzymes to turn milk into cheese.
How long did you said you did this just before we arrived?
Yes.
So how long did this take?
To turn milk into cheese, in our case, in this case, I use rennet. I didn't use the stomach because it makes it more easy for me to do it. But the very traditional method is to use the stomach of the lamb or the stomach of the kid from the goats.
Where do the chili peppers come into this story?
The chili, I prepare cheese with chili, sun-dried tomatoes, and olive oil. Then I do another one with pepper and olive oil. Of course, from the cheese without pepper and without chili. Plain.
And these little cups that have holes through the sides, what is their function?
These are to put cheese. I can do it. To put cheese in it so that can drain. As you can see, this is a traditional basket we used a long time ago.
So now it's plastic.
Nowadays, of course, it's plastic. It's easier to clean and it's more efficient for me to do the work because sometimes I need like 300 baskets at one time.
So can you show us the technique?
Yes. I have here the. I can use this one as well. As you can see, it's already turned into curd. So every day I be here early in the morning.
So in addition to serving your cheeses in your restaurant, do you sell to local people who come to buy cheese?
Of course, especially to the Maltese. When we have a long weekend, the Maltese cross to the island of Gozo, in thousands, you can say, when we have a special long weekend. So we only sell the surplus, because first the big bulk goes to the restaurant. Then the rest, of course, we preserve it in jars, in special jars, and then we sell it to the Maltese or to other people.
It almost looks like custard.
Yes. It's very, as you can see here, it's already turned into. We use sun salt on top from the sea salt in Schweini. I don't know if you visited Manuel from Schweini. And we do the rest of the cheese, as you can see. I have it in this stage also. This is from what I done early in the morning. So the production works like this. What we produce early in the morning, we can present it for lunch as fresh cheese. Wow. Every day.
Wow.
Every day.
Wow.
It's a quick process. Then the process will continue.
Stephanie Abrams in Valletta, the capital city of Malta. And I am privileged to be inside the Cathedral of St. John, which is an experience you will never forget. And a primary reason why you need to make tracks to Malta. I'm in the company of Narcy Calamatta, a filmmaker, a scholar, a brilliant man with more information than an encyclopedia has to offer, especially on the subject of Malta and its history. Talk to us, Narcy, and thank you so much for making the time for us about the Cathedral of St. John.
The pleasure is mine. Hello, everybody. We are in the Cathedral of St. John. What does it mean? This is a church built by a military order that originally was the Holy Order of Hospitallers, dedicated to St. John the Baptist in Jerusalem. When they were kicked out of Jerusalem, they went to Cyprus. They were kicked out of Cyprus by the Turks. They went to the island of Rhodes in Greece, and they were kicked out of the Rhodes, and they came to Malta. In Malta, they were the rulers. As rulers, they needed to have a place where they organized their ceremonies, sacred ceremonies, investitures, making people to become knights. So they needed a convent, a conventual church. And this conventual church started as a very humble place, all very dark, like you see behind me. It's a place for prayer, a place for meditation. And it is supposed to be not so much a place where you show off your power. But of course, after so many changes and many different grandmasters, then they started showing off. The Knights Hospitallers of St. John of Jerusalem, eventually they were known the Knights of Malta after the famous Great Siege in 1565, when Suleiman the Magnificent sent 40,000 soldiers to take over Malta from the Knights of St. John because of its strategic naval situation. And the Knights resisted, and the Pope was very happy that the Turks did not take Malta, because had they taken Malta, they would have gone on to Sicily, Italy, Rome, Pope out of the way, and Vienna, here I come. That's where they wanted to be. So the Pope got the Christian kings and princes of Europe to send money to the Grand Master, the Prince, the leader of the Knights of St. John, Jean Parisot de la Valette.
We've only scratched the surface. Stay with me, more to come. Stephanie Abrams in Malta with very special guests. I have with me the Marquis Nicholas de Piro, who lives in this grand and wonderful historic home, here with his best buddy, Kiku. Kiku, talk for me. Say hello.
Hello. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello, Cheeky. Mr. Cheeky.
Can I get a hello?
Maybe,
Hello.
but when he wants to.
Oh, you're so beautiful.
There you go.
You are so beautiful.
Come, my love.
Pretty baby.
Come. Ow.
Pretty baby. You're biting? Don't bite
He
me.
does
I would
bite.
hate it. Don't bite me. I would really hate it. You're lovely. You're lovely. Well, we're going
He's
to.
one of our main attractions.
I would imagine he would be.
Yes, when people are bored, perhaps like school children, and they see him, they change tune completely. And we also have a little bit of underground here, which perhaps people don't just want to see old drawing rooms and things. But I think you should see the house, in fact, shouldn't you?
We'll get to do that, but we're going to have a nice chat first. I wish you would say hello for all the people who are watching this. Hello. Hello, Kiku. Hello.
Please
Hello.
forget to give us a wave. Come
Pretty
on.
baby. Pretty baby. Ah, well. I know. You'll get very chatty the moment we stop.
When we're going upstairs.
No doubt about it. Well, we're going to have a chat now, and you're going to be able to download it for a year at travelers411.com in our podcast. And you can go to sabrams.com, that's sabrams.com, where you'll find the interview we're about to do in depth online forever and ever. This is Stephanie Abrams, live from Malta with the Marquis and Kiko, who doesn't want to say hello. How is goodbye? Oh dear, not a chance. How about eat the microphone? What's a trip without shopping? Get serious. Ladies, there is a shop in Malta you have to stop into. Look at this. Is this not gorgeous and original and creative? And really could take you from lunchtime through to the wee hours of the night. And I have to tell you, I love this fabric. It works so well when you're packing because it doesn't wrinkle and it looks gorgeous all day, all night. And I'm here with a designer. Well, half the design team anyway. I'm here with Ron at Charles and Ron's shop, one of more than one in Malta. But I'm going to let Ron say his last name for you because I can't handle it. So you are Ron?
Van Maarschalkerweerd, Borg.
Yes, indeed, he do. So let's talk about you. Your designs are fabulous. Look at that. That's gorgeous. So how long have you been designing? What's your earliest memory of designing?
Well, actually, when Charles and I met, which was in 1992, things took off because Charles has a background of sewing. He learned it from his auntie, so he was very artistic and creative in that way from a very young age. And when we met, we sort of started working on first designs. I obviously saw that he had a talent, and from there the business grew, and we kept on learning as we went along.
So you have this shop. What is the address here in Malta?
This is Republic Street, which is the main shopping street in Valletta, the capital city.
Yeah, no kidding. This is just a great place to be. And falling in here is like walking through the forest and kicking over an amethyst, where the part that looks like stone is just kind of grayish. And then you kick it over and you actually find these colors inside, sparkling and dazzling. Let's talk a second about another shop, because we are at the Corinthia Palace Hotel. And you have a shop there too.
Yes, that's right. We have a small boutique in the lobby of the Corinthia Palace Hotel. That was our first store on the island, and it's still there because we love being in the hotel. It's a beautiful hotel.
You have the right clientele for it as well. But I'm just wondering, because we've been so busy since we've gotten to Malta, I didn't even notice your shop in the hotel because I have either been in our suite having a meal or out the door. So do you carry the same range of items that you carry here in Charles and Ron?
Yes, usually we do. The range at the Valletta store is sometimes a little bit bigger because we have a little bit more space here, but in general it's the same range. Sometimes things might vary, like at the moment we have a sale at the Corinthia, which we don't have over here, but these are, there are events that are for 2-3 days, and then we move on to the regular stock.
Is there a website?
Yes, there is. There is a website.
Don't do the W's. Just give us the site.
It's www.
No, don't do the W's. Just give us the site.
charlesandron.com.
And is A-N-D?
That's correct.
charlesandron.com. in Malta. Check it out. I'm so happy to invite you into our beautiful suite at the Corinthia Palace Hotel in Malta. And I have with me Sean Buhajar, who is the artistic director of Teatro Malta. Thank you so much, Sean, for making the effort to come here.
Thank you.
And you told me that you have an Irish name through a series of events. There's a certain Yeats quality about you. Let's talk about Teatro Malta. What is it, and why should people come to Malta and participate in it?
So basically, Teatro Malta is the newly founded national theatre company. And the interesting thing is that it's a national theatre company without walls. We're everywhere. So the concept is going to be, because we're working on the first program, which will be launched soon. The first thing we want to do is that we use different spaces. So you might be anywhere around the island, Malta and Gozo, because we're an archipelago. You can experience theatre in different spaces and in different styles, because the plan is to have different artists producing for different audiences. So we're going to be as contemporary as using classical, but also verbal, non-verbal. So I'm sure there will be something out there. If you like comedy, we'll have comedy. If you like drama, we'll have drama. There'll be something out there which hopefully you will enjoy.
And you have the kind of weather conditions that allow for that movable feast. It's truly a brilliant idea. I need to invite you to come and visit us where we live when we're not traveling somewhere wonderful like Malta, in the beautiful Berkshire Mountains of Western Massachusetts, and take you to some world-class cultural venues that I think will inspire your imagination as well. One of what made me think of that is that the Berkshire Ballet does their performances all over, not only in Berkshire County, but also in Albany, New York, which is about 30 miles away. And so the idea of being able to bring the cultural venue to the people at their convenience and move it around and offer different things is just brilliant. What is it about you that got you into this exciting position as artistic director, Sean?
Well, theatre has been my life, if you will, for the past 10 years. And I'm 30 years old, so that makes it 1/3 of my life in a professional capacity. But I also studied the subject, and it's what really inspires me it helps me live my life in a happy way and make sure that people experience life in a better way. So, for example, I'm mentioning this Teatro Malta idea of moving around the island. In my own capacity, last summer we created a project where we toured squares in Malta and Gozo on a Maltese bus. I don't know if you've happened to look at a picture of the old Maltese buses. They're these iconic vehicles full of color. Now they're practically museum pieces, but there are some touristic versions of them going around. And we produced a large spectacular street show. And when you go near people's houses, when you go to them, you get reactions like people hugging us. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for bringing this here. And that is why practically I do theatre.
There is something unique about bringing cultural opportunities to people rather than expecting them to organize it, even know about things, that they just show up. And I'll tell you one of the things that makes me think of from my childhood that I always loved. Where we lived, there was something called the Bookmobile. And it was a big bus, and all of the seats were taken out, and the bus was lined with bookshelves, and the bus would pull up on a certain corner on a certain day, 10 o'clock in the morning, noon, 2 o'clock, wherever in your neighborhood, and you'd go out to the Bookmobile with your library card, and you could go and select a book, and next week when it comes by again, you return the book and get another one. So this concept of bringing cultural opportunities to people, it's just brilliant. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Think Teatro Malta. You can listen to the podcast, and you can do more than that because you can download it for the next year at travelers411.com, and you can listen forever and ever to the archived audio of the interview broadcast on Travel with Stephanie Abrams and Travelers 411 Coast to Coast in the U.S. So be sure that you check out sabrams.com and travelers411.com. We have so much more to visit and talk about. Don't leave me. Stephanie Abrams here. This is Stephanie Abrams in the cheese kitchen where Rickardu Zammit in Gozo, Malta, is preparing cheese that's made from goat's milk and from the milk from sheep. And he's doing some fast and furious stuff. Now, this first level is having taken the milk, added rennet to it to be the enzymes to make it's the curds and whey, actually. You look at cottage cheese, it would be little lumps of the solid and then the liquid, and you're seeing the solid and the liquid. So the cheese is now going into these little plastic cups that have holes on the side so that the liquid can drain. And this is the old-fashioned way it used to be done, in baskets, but it's much more sanitary to have and efficient to have the plastic to be able to drain the water and then the liquid, and then this cheese is going to have an opportunity to rest for a while in the refrigerator for 3 days, and it goes through various stages of more of the liquid coming out until it's become a solid. And if we look to the right here, you can see in the silver trays, you can see various stages of the cheese solidifying. And the one that's the most solid is that top tray sitting on top of an intermediate step. But ultimately, the cheese, after some time, is going to look like little tiny dinner rolls. It's really quite amazing, and you see them here. And there are some ingredients on this workstation that Rickardu Zammit is going to show us what he's going to do with that cheese and these chili peppers and the sea salt and other items that are here on the table. And now, what are you going to do with these dried cheeses that are in this big silver pot?
I'm going to preserve them in pepper. And one in pepper and black pepper and olive oil. The other one I use some red pepper, chili, and dry tomatoes and olive oil.
Okay,
and the taste is completely different, but it's the same cheese.
So can you make one so we can see how it's done?
One quick.
Now, what is in that jar that you are squeezing the dried cheese into?
White cheese without no pepper, exactly milk and some rennet.
No, but in the bottom of this jar.
In the bottom I used some chilies and some dry tomatoes.
Oh, okay.
Dry tomatoes we do it in June and July. We open the tomatoes. Maybe you know, in Gozo we produce tons and tons of tomatoes. Even the land looks dry, but there is humidity underneath. So with this method of drip irrigation, we can produce tons and tons of tomatoes.
So you have some diced red chili pepper on the bottom, yes, and a dried tomato, and then you've put more on the top and some extra virgin olive oil.
Olive oil to keep it moist.
Okay.
And it keep even for preservation. Apart from that, it has a nice taste also.
So now you are filling every nook and cranny of this glass mason jar, kind of a jar.
These are special jars.
They're airtight.
Airtight preservative jars, and the product can last even for a year or more.
My goodness.
Yes.
So, does it require refrigeration or just?
No, when the cheese is perfectly dried, it doesn't need refrigeration. It needs a cool place, but there is no need to refrigerate.
I like that. Okay.
You can add some oil as well to keep it moist.
Never enough olive oil. All right, the big squeeze. There we go.
You see?
That's very nice looking. That would make a nice present for somebody.
Yes, I sell a lot of them as presents as well.
Yeah, put a ribbon around it, and that's
Yes.
it. Out the door to Grandma's house.
We need to do the sticker, and we have to complete the jar.
Rickardu Zammit, the marketing man.
Okay. The rest of the cheese, I'm going to show you how we make the pepper cheese. I don't use strong vinegar. I use white wine or rosé so that the pepper will stick with the cheese. This is the very traditional method what we are experiencing. So I have to remove the wine. I can use this container here.
So now you're pouring out the excess wine after all of these dried cheeses have taken a bath.
I marinate cheese and even I marinate a lot of meat with wine. What we don't sell after 2 years, I use it for cooking and for marinating meat. This is the way we stick the pepper with the cheese. So we do the same packing as before. I need a jar.
Have we a jar?
Yes, I have the
All
jar.
right, it's time for a jar.
I use this special gasket
To make a good seal.
to make a good
The
seal.
rubber
Yes.
gaskets.
And then I start packing this cheese. I just put 4 and 4, 8 already. I put a little salt, and then I continue.
And you're using sea salt,
I use
the
sea
coarse
salt, yes.
sea salt.
Sea salt.
Why is that better than table salt?
It's more natural. And I know the men, I know the people who do the salt. So I go to their house, and they are the people like me, ordinary people that they work from the house, take care of their salt pans. So it's
Fascinating.
and
Back for more olive oil.
yes, I'm happy to work with them.
What country does the olive oil come from?
And we have our own olive oil from Gozo, but we don't have enough. So we import a lot of olive oil from all over the world, you can say, from Italy, from Greece. You can see.
Oh, how pretty that is. Look how nice that looks.
See, it takes about more than 25 cheeselets in it.
And now it needs to marinate in this olive oil.
Sometimes you have to turn it like this to keep it moist,
Okay.
and
But
there's
how
no need.
long- When is it at its best?
I mean, if you leave it, you can eat it as it is, but if you leave it like another 3 months to rest or 1 month, if it will be in my kitchen, it won't stay long because I love cheese.
Well, on that happy note, we're going to thank you, Rickardu Zammit, here in Gozo, in Malta. That was fascinating. Thank you so much. I'd shake your hand, but no. No. This is Stephanie Abrams live from Malta, and you can hear the church bells ringing in the background. We've got a lot to talk about. Stay tuned for more. From inside the Cathedral of St. John in the capital city of Malta, Valletta, with scholar, filmmaker, and local celebrity for sure, and probably a celebrity in much of Europe. So if you don't know him, it's time for you to get to know Narcy Calamatta. We're talking about the interior of St. John Cathedral in Valletta and its history. Where did we leave off in the story?
So, Grandmaster Lacassiere built a conventual church for prayer and sacred ceremony. But because they had built Valletta, an impregnable city, then there was 200 years of Pax Melitensis, or peace from Malta, because they were dominating the Mediterranean from Malta's strategic position, and nobody dared attack Malta again. They became very rich because they came from noble families. Every knight had to have 7 branches of nobility in his family before he was installed as a Knight of St. John of Malta. And every Grand Master wanted to be like a god, remembered forever, eternal. So every Grand Master would leave some kind of monument behind him, either bronze covered in gold, gold is eternal, or a statue made of marble. And how did this happen? I think it started in Firenze with the Medici family, in that every time they had a dinner and they would uncover a new piece of decoration. For example, a pillar covered in green marble. Where do you get green marble from? You have to find a green mountain. And the guests, among them a prince of the church, a cardinal, would go back home, ask his designer, hey, the Medici have green marbles. We want green marble in our palace. The Medici have stucco on the wall, sculpture. We want the sculpture. The Medici covered that sculpture in gold. We want gold. The Medici have frescoes in the ceiling. We want frescoes in the ceiling. The Medici have intarsia on the floor. We want intarsia on the floor. So it became a race of who would put in most. In fact, it is called Baroque. Baroque is not a compliment. It is a place where the baroccaio, or the man who lives in a shed, the man who is a rag and bone man and collects all the rubbish people throw away from their houses, and he stuffs it all in. In fact, in its own time, it was denigrated as horror vacui. Horror, the fear of vacui, of leaving an empty place. More horror vacui than St. John's Cathedral in Valletta you will not find in the world. From top to bottom.
That's a fact. That is a fact. And in fact, you don't know where to put your eyes, and as you move from one site to another within St. John's Cathedral in the capital city of Malta, Valletta, you have the feeling that if you look away at what you're looking at, you're going to miss part of it as you look at something else. It's just incredibly ornate, isn't it?
It's incredibly ornate, but the original was very simple. It is cut in 3 segments, perpendicular and horizontal, which is the classic, the way the Romans and the Greeks did their decoration. Only when they started adding on, so what you see on the left is balanced by what you see on the right, and the most important thing is in the middle. So there you have the statuary group of Jesus being baptized by John the Baptist. And then you have an organ on the left, another organ on the right. It has to be balanced. That's why it is called La Divina Proporzione, or the way God wanted things to be. The golden cut, so that it is easy on the eye. Easy on the eye, looks good, looks beautiful. You see? So when we say, oh, how lovely. Well, indeed, it is a little bit overdone. But they did this in the glory of God. Don't you believe it? They always signed the decoration and to make sure you know who paid for it, so they will be remembered forever. So if you look at the top of the green pillar there is the emblem of Grand Master Cotoner. The crown showing that he is a prince, The two white crosses on a red background showing he is a Grand Master of the Order of the Knights of St. John, and the two cotton bushes, that's his name, Cotonner.
That's remarkable. That really is remarkable. Now, in addition to all the paintings, the carvings, the gilt work, in the floor, you used a name I don't know to describe the work in the floor. It's inlays of colored marble, and it's also it marks the resting place of one of the knights, doesn't it? I mean, I'm remembering this from my last visit to the Cathedral of St. John, which is 15 years ago, so bring me up to date on it.
These are tombstones, and of course, the richer knights prepared the tombstone before they died, because after you die, people don't care. So before they died, all right, they prepared the tombstone by ordering a design, a picture that is eternal, meaning it's made of marble, it lasts forever. How did they do this? They take a stone of one color, they cut a model in the stone and leave a space 4 millimeters deep. They bring another stone of a different color, cut out the same pattern, 4 millimeters thick, and they lay it inside the space they left before. In English called inlay, in Italiano intarsio. And to get where you see there, say, in the hair of the angel, you see it going red, that means that the yellow marble they used, they burnt it with a flame, so it will go turn red, and you get this sfumatura. So it's like painting, but it's a marble thing that lasts forever.
There are any number of these inlaid marble tombstones, basically delineating the name of the knight and the year of their death. But, you know, some of them, if we move forward just a little bit, we're going to see this looks like a harlequin pattern that you might see in Venice during Carnivale, but some of them frightened me with skeletons and skulls, and
all of them have a skull.
Ah, yes, look at that.
Memento Moris, remember you have got to die. All of them have what you think is a harlequin, but you mentioned Venice, so there you are. That is the family emblem. You see the crown, that is, he is of royal descent.
You have the Maltese cross at the top?
Yeah, because the Maltese cross is the 8-pointed cross, or the emblem of the Knights of St. John. And then the memento moris, or the death, the skull and bones, signifying death. And then all the nice words saying, hey, this was a good knight, he did a lot of charity, and he was fighting either in the Crusades or in the name of Christ or in the name of the church. And that way you see the angels announcing him going up to heaven.
This is such a wonderful place. I have to imagine that there are people who come to Malta who are architectural scholars, who are studying art history, who are history majors, doing something related to their schoolwork or scholarly work after. Do you see much of that happening here?
Oh, yes. We walked past that palace called Biblioteca before. That is where all the archives of the Knights of St. John are. And many scholars from all over the world, when they want to study Renaissance in the Mediterranean or in Europe, they have to come there to see the longhand letter from Henry VIII of England congratulating Grand Master Lila Dam for getting Malta from the King of Spain. Carlos V.
That's ironic, considering that the British kind of moved in and sat on top of Malta for a long time.
Timing. A couple of years later, the same Henry VIII sent them a letter, which we have here with his bull, okay, saying, sorry about this, I have decided to split with the Vatican. If you have any English knights with you, tell them they either come home or I will confiscate all the goods or the treasures, what they have in England, or I can't find the word now, all the treasures.
All of their assets.
Possessions, all their possessions in England.
That's incredible. Funny what goes around comes around. And, you know, when you look at things historically, you often have the sense that if you could have looked ahead, because too often there is somebody with a good idea, but a very big hidden agenda. I want to thank Narcy Calamatta for being our treasured guide today in Valletta, the capital city of Malta, here at St. John's Cathedral, a place you must visit clearly. This is Stephanie Abrams. Gregorian chants, a good note to go out on. So good to spend this hour with you. Come back next week. We'll go somewhere wonderful and talk about great travel tips to make your travels wonderful so you can travel richly. This is Stephanie Abrams. Gotta fly now.